Welcome back. This is the Morning Cafe. Right now we're going on to the lifestyle segment. Today's topic is very interesting. I know some of you have, of course, experienced some bit of hair loss, balding, and with us in studio is a gentleman who understands that area very much so. His name is Muli Musioka, a trichologist. Yes. Let's just begin. What's a trichologist?
Some people call me hair doctor, but trichology is actually two words. Tricho means hair, and is a Greek word for hair, and ology is the science behind it. So trichology is a cellular study of hair, how hair grows, how the body interacts with, everything you intake, how it interacts with hair, including medicine, anything you smoke, anything you drink, how it relates, how it helps your hair, or how it interferes with your hair. And the other thing is, hair basically is a barometer to the body system. So trichologists analyze any conditions you have for your hair or your scalp, and they treat or they help to treat that. The reason why I say they help, there's situations that we pick up with the hair, but we cannot treat them, so we have to send you to specific doctors to address that.
Well, let me ask, because I personally, growing up, I was experiencing some hair loss.
Correct.
But I didn't know if it was the lines I was having on my head, like they were a bit tight or something like that. It's maybe wearing too much of capes, because I used to wear a lot of capes when I was growing up. But, like my hairline was all the way Nyuma Kidogo, But I just want us to understand, what causes hair loss?
One, let me address that, because I'm seeing a lot of kids in the clinic who are losing hair. One, we blame their moms, because you want to do very tight lines on your kids. And our hair follicles do not mature until we're the age of 14, 16. So even these relaxers packed in boxes and written for children, we all know how ladies used to start to relax their hair. It's like saying kiddie beer. I mean, you cannot have such stuff. You need to allow your kids' hair follicles to grow before you start training them with putting heavy braids or tagging with cornrows. At the same time, we're also seeing a lot of kids pulling their own hair. Maybe they're it's a compulsive problem. Maybe they are quite stressed at home, at school, and those are some of the things that would lead to people pulling their own hair. But generally,
so for kids, even before we move to the adults, how do you recover or have the hair grow back?
Essentially, it just depends with what is happening, because the most important thing is first to get a diagnosis. They could be pulling their own hair because they are stressed. You have to find a way of finding out what is stressing them, and this has to be done together with the parents or the teachers, and sometimes maybe other kids just bully them in school, and we've even resulted into just writing a letter to school and the kids wears a cape and they just stop. Others is just because they are so focused on reading and they're just used to playing with their hair at that particular point. Or we see kids losing hair in patches because they have an autoimmune problem. It's just like an allergy, and there are ways that we treat that. So basically, the most important thing is really to identify what form of hair loss is it, what is causing it, and then you address it the best way possible.
Okay. Yep. Well, let's go down to the adults. And if my director can just run some of those pictures. There's some pictures I know you shared with me. People who have, like my receding hairline. Thank God that mine is back to normal. Thank God. But when you look at some of the pictures we are seeing on air right now, people's hairline going all the way, almost half the head. What are some of the causes of hair loss? We know there's natural balding.
Correct.
But for others that are not the natural ones, which ones are they? What causes them? Let's begin with ladies.
Number one, women bald through a process we call female pattern thinning or female pattern hair loss. We don't simply call it balding in women because it can be triggered by a lot of things. It could be either they have hormonal imbalance, it could be that they're just genetically predisposed to lose hair at some point. It could be that they are going through menopause, and one of the things we see is thinning at the top. However, the most common form of hair loss with with women of African descent is traction alopecia, where they lose hair on the front hairline, And this is basically because of the styling aids that we use. I mean, we want to do very tight wigs, braids and manicure locks very tightly. And the hairline is a transition between the terminal hair to the vellus hair, which is the hair that grows on your face. We cannot see it. So there's an area of soft hair as you transition from your scalp hair to the rest of the body's hair. And that hairline is usually very sensitive to things like chemicals, tagging, so we easily pull it out or yank out the hair follicles.
And even as you mentioned that, it's so interesting because like some of the times when I go to the salon, I'll see a lady has put some tight lines, like her eyebrows are going like
you guys like it tight. You like it tight and neat.
But I think for some ladies, they really love to do that. Maybe you need to speak to them so that they don't lose their hair.
Yeah, and even hairstylists lately are really working. They've understood that over time, whatever we're doing is causing more harm than good. And you remember people used to be told if you braid your hair, it will grow faster. I mean, and that's just
is that true?
It's superstition, and it will never apply anywhere. It's just like saying pulling your nail will make it grow faster. I mean, it's just crazy.
Are you sure, Muli, if I braid my hair a lot, it won't grow?
No, I mean, if you braid your hair, it will grow. If you don't braid your hair, it's gonna grow. Your hair grows through cell multiplication. So either way,
it doesn't matter whether you braid or
it doesn't matter. It matters if you braid it too much, you're gonna lose it. Yeah, and ideally we are born with around 100 to 150,000 hair follicles on the scalp. And when you lose one of those, then the body cannot generate new hair follicles. So actually, mismanagement of your hair can lead to permanent hair loss. Yeah, so I mean, there are quite a number of things that would lead to receding hairlines. We have deficiencies. If people have deficiencies of critical things like iron, vitamin D, we will see them losing hair diffusely. And now we have another very common form of hair loss that is affecting a lot of African women, and it's called frontofibrosing. And this is an autoimmune problem where your own white blood cells start attacking your own hair follicles.
And what happens in this case?
It's a stress-related form of hair loss, and when I say stress, it's not necessarily psychological stress. Of course, that could be a cause, but it could be medication, it could be that you are hospitalized for a period of time, it could be that you've changed the climate, or you've moved from one place to another, the diet and all. It's quite a number of things can actually trigger that. There are the latest studies that are showing that form of hair loss could be related to use of sunscreen and skin moisturizers, though it's unconcluded study that is just indicating that the people who are suffering from some autoimmune problems like frontofibrosing, when you dig deep, you find sunscreen deep lying into the affected hair follicles. And the explanation is that vitamin D is very important for the immunity of your own hair follicles. So when you have decreased levels of vitamin D, then the immunity of your own hair follicles really decreases, and it can bring about inflammation, and you lose the hair follicles.
I want us to look at men briefly, because men are also affected. What are some of the conditions we have for the men?
Men, mostly we see them just losing hair in genetic manner, that is balding on the top area, and people don't bald on the side. They only bald at the top because the follicles in that area have a receptor molecule for hormonal changes in the body system. There's also a very common problem when men go and shave their beards very closely and they start getting pustules all over and at the back of their scalp, and this is actually a big problem we call pseudofolliculitis. So the idea is that if you shave your hair very clean, then because our hair is curly, it pierces back into the skin as it tries to grow, and then that gets itchy. So as you try to scratch it, you introduce a bacteria from your hands that is we call staphylococci. So it's stuffy, it has pus and all that, so it leads to death of skin tissue. And if that is not fixed in good time, it can actually lead to an infection that can affect a major part of your scalp. So that's another condition that we see with African men. And then I'm seeing quite a number of men now losing hair in patches on their beards, on their eyebrows, and their scalp as well. And those are related forms of stress-related forms of hair loss. The other thing is people ask me a lot about smoking, and I would say smoking would more often lead to hair graying than hair loss.
Hair loss.
Yeah.
But I just want us to understand, I mean, if my director can just have some of those pictures, because we've seen women, some of the pictures you shared with me on women and men, but I want us to look at now the solution.
Yeah.
What can one person do to make the hair grow back and make sure you have hair in some of the places where you've actually had some loss of hair?
Loss of hair. Yeah. One, I think Kenyans love quick things, and not only Kenyans. I think everybody loves quick things, and people will always ask, what cream can I use and what can I take to stop hair loss? But the most important thing about hair loss is identifying what is making me lose hair. Because you and I could lose hair, and God forbid we're not going to lose hair. I mean, we could lose hair in the same way, but the causes are totally different. So the first step when you're losing hair is to get a diagnosis, and a correct diagnosis. Know why are you losing hair. Secondly, the earlier you treat hair loss, the better. If you keep postponing it, the more you lose, the more difficult it becomes to restore that hair. However, if we identify that you're losing hair because of it's a ringworm condition, then there is a way we treat that. If your hair is thinning out, but you've not lost everything, then there is a lot that we can do to restore that hair. But I mean, we can use things like growth factors. We have a therapy that we call PRP, that is using your own blood. We segregate and get a high concentration of your growth factors. We can use things like your own stem cells to increase hair growth. And there is hair transplant as well, which we use on permanently. I mean, spots that have permanently lost hair.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So at least the first thing you're saying is to get a diagnosis, and from there you'll be able maybe to talk to a trichologist like yourself and find out the next step.
Correct.
Okay, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
Speak to you about anything on hair, and we hope to have you again to tell us a little bit more about hair thinning other than hair loss. Thank you for making time.
Thank you so much.
Well, that has been Mulim Sioka, a trichologist, basically talking about matters here, hair loss, what you can do. As you've heard from him, he's talking about the fact that you need to get a diagnosis before you take the next step. Well, Morning Cafe does come to an end, sadly, but tomorrow we get to look a little bit more on the lifestyle segment, matters to do with agriculture, a gentleman who has been able to make it very much in the farming industry, and he's a former journalist, by the way, so don't miss that interview. Make sure you tune in for Morning Cafe tomorrow. Thank you for watching. My name is Leangare. Until tomorrow, same time, same place, that's 7 a.m. only on TV 47. Take care and have a lovely day.
Sarma Enterprises Limited. We are your trusted and reliable supplier of quality timber products, construction material suppliers, which are river sand, ballast, building stones. Visit our website on www.sarma.co.ke. Sarma Enterprises Limited. Quality materials for quality.